Good evening. I'd now like to call the February 13th, 2018 meeting of the Alexander County Board of Education to order. If you will, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I would like to ask Cole Childers to come forward and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Cole is accompanied by his grandparents this evening, Brenda and Craig Childers. We'll stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, Cole.
Thanks, sir.
Good job.
Thank you so much, Cole. That was a good job. And thank you, Grandma, for bringing it. Board members, you've had the opportunity to review tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? That motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is our honors and recognitions, and I'll call Dr. Jennifer Heffner for presentations.
Thank you, Chairman Bowman and board members. It's always my pleasure to present the honors and recognition portion of the board meeting each month. Tonight, we are going to honor and recognize certified staff members that have completed National Board Certification. Board Member Ryan and Board Member Hardis, will you come up and help me, please? North Carolina continues to lead the nation in the number of teachers that have earned certification from the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. The certification is rigorous performance-based assessment that typically takes from 1 to 3 years to complete and measures what accomplished teachers and counselors should know and be able to do. Teachers in North Carolina that achieve certification receive a 12% salary supplement to their regular pay that is good for the 10-year life of the certification. They are also awarded 8 continuing education credits. Tonight we're going to be honoring 7 of the 10 candidates that either earned certification for the first time or renewed their certification. And we're going to start with those that have obtained the certification for the first time. When I call your name, please come forward. Peyton Boyles, ACHS. Amanda Marshall, ACHS. Travis Crowder, East Alexander Middle School. And Tony Smith, East Alexander Middle School. Ashley Huss from West Alexander Middle School would have been with this group. However, Ashley has just given birth to a beautiful baby, and the baby got to come home yesterday. So she decided to stay in, and that's probably a good decision. Please give this group a round of applause. We are also honoring individuals that have renewed their National Board certification. Please come up as I call your name. Tara Geiger, Taylorsville Elementary. Christy's not here. Travis is going to take Christy's. Here we go. Here we go. Congratulations. Brian Lewis, ACHS. Has to be one of these two. Has to be that one. Brian, do you care to also take Angie Hickerson's? That should be hers. Thank you. You probably should check after a while. And last but certainly not least, Elizabeth Turner. Please give the group renewing certification a round of applause.
Forward and be on the front row. And you guys
And then the two of you go get on each side. Renee, can the two board members get, okay. Another round of applause.
Good job. Good job, Brian. We are also going to honor 2 grant recipients tonight, but before we do that, board members, a couple of you had an opportunity to meet our interim school nutrition director, Kathy Caudle. She has another meeting tonight, so she asked to be excused just after this portion of the meeting. She and Lisa Fox and several folks, they did a wonderful job pulling the reception together, and so Kathy Caudle, we say thank you. Okay, now to recognize 2 grant recipients. Both happen to be from Alexander Central High School. The first grant recipient is Scotty Cook. Scotty's not able to be with us tonight because he's actually at an event receiving the check from the Tobacco Trust Fund Commission. Accepting the certificate tonight will be Tyler Mitchell, and he will accept that on his behalf. Board Member Odom, will you come and help out, please, sir? The grant will actually be used to purchase a portable bandsaw that will be used in the agriculture education classes. There is a great need to offer agri-science applications, agricultural mechanics 1 and 2, and natural resources 1 and 2. These classes provide the opportunity to learn about milling lumber. The purchase of a bandsaw will allow students to see how lumber is milled from the tree to the finished board. Let's give Scotty a round of applause. Technically Tyler.
I get called that every day anyway.
You do every day? Okay, well, good, good. I know that the students and staff will appreciate that. And then the second grant recipient is J.D. Sink. He is going to be the recipient of a farm credit grant and tractor supply grant. The Carolina Farm Credit Mission Fund has awarded $5,000 to be used specifically for the ACHS Agriculture and FFA Livestock Learning Lab. The lab will be located just below the gardens at ACHS. It will include a livestock barn that will periodically house farm animals for educational purposes and experiments. And I think those experiments will all be good, right, for the animal lovers in the system. I'm joking, JD, about that. They will all be good. This will give students hands-on experiences to help them make decisions on their farms or in their places of employment. And then the Tractor Supply Company grant, also being awarded to JD, will help fund the Livestock Learning Lab. This grant award for $1,108 will be used to educate youth in the proper handling and management of all livestock on the farm. Congratulations to JD and all of the staff and students at ACHS. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Calling the cow outside.
David, you can round them up.
Thank you all.
Now we're to our public comment. Can we check and see if there's any comments? Anyone signed up? And there's no one signed up for public comment. We will move on to our consent agenda. Board members, you had the opportunity to review the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, it's time for our reports, and our first up is Miss Mary Brown from Wittenberg Elementary for our monthly update.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Welcome to Wittenberg. Go ahead and click. I have a lot of slides, but I'll talk fast, so, okay. Okay, we were a D school 2 years ago. In the last 2 years, we have come up with a B overall, C in LA, B in math, and a B overall. And so in honor of our B, we had a B cake made. And you may recognize some of those people in that picture, but I'm very, very proud of those teachers and our students. We have one of those teachers here that's in that picture too. So way to go, Wittenberg Wildcats. But that being said, we are going back to basics. We're really concentrating because we love being a B, but we would rather be an A, and we want to move that C up. So we're focusing back on just the basics: English language arts, math, science, and social studies. In ELA this year, we are doing Orton Gillingham Phonics. All our EC and K2 staff are trained in that. We're doing novels to raise the level of rigor, and one of our lowest areas in ELA was vocabulary, so we're using a vocabulary program called Worldly Wise. And I put those book covers to showcase some of the books that we're reading. Hatchet is an awesome book for boys. I don't know if any of you have not read it. It is definitely worth the read. A Wrinkle in Time is coming out in a movie, and that's one of the first books I remember reading as a child, and some of our enhancement groups are going to be reading that in the 4th grade. And The One and Only Ivan is a big deal in 3rd grade this year. I walked down the classroom today, to the 3rd grade classrooms today, and 2 of them were like, "Miss Brown, you're not going to believe what happened." Don't tell me, because I'm waiting to read. I can't read it because I know it is a tearjerker, so I cannot read it at school. So after some weekend, I'm going to get it and read it at home so I don't have a moment in front of all my 3rd graders. Okay, in math, we have been very successful with Engage New York, thanks Dr. Curry. We're using that in all grade levels. We're using an old school program called Math Superstars. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but that's for our high achievers. And I used that way back in the day when I was teaching. It's neat. It's some common sense and some problem solving. We're exploring a program called Number World for some of our kids that are a little bit lower achieving than we'd like for them to be. Interventions. We have messed with the intervention schedule multiple times. We've had it at the beginning of the day, we had it at the end of the day. We've made a lunch intervention sandwich, so we do a 3-5 intervention, then we go to lunch, then we do a K2 intervention. Having those interventions in the middle of the day, everybody's more on it. The end of the day didn't work. The beginning of the day, people were late. So that's gone really, really well. Our groups are small, flexible, and data-driven, and our interventions are research-based and recorded daily. PLCs, they're meeting once every 12 days. They meet for 90 minutes, or they try to, if we can get all the coverage that we need. And again, they're data-driven. And I've really seen change in our PLCs this year. At first it was, oh, we're going to meet for 90 minutes. What are we going to talk about? And now it's, when is the PLC meeting again? When can we get back together again? And I was able to sit in our first grade PLC, and we're really learning a lot about kids, learning a lot about our practice, and learning a lot about best practice. Okay, PBIS, we're revised that. We've been doing it. We've been relatively successful, but we felt like we needed a change. So we've got a new motto, Wittenberg Wildcats care, share, and do our best. And another thing we've been doing that's been really helpful is check your head, check your heart, check your hands, and check your feet. And this helps get our kids into a space where they need to be when they're transitioning around the building, when they're getting ready to go to the cafeteria, walk down the hall, or get on the bus. You know, are you thinking good thoughts? Is your heart in the right place? What are you doing with your hands? Are your feet going in the right direction? And that's been a big change and a big positive change at Wittenberg. And we've revised our matrix to reflect our new model and our check-in system. Okay, learning focused training. This is, I think, going to be really helpful at Wittenberg. We're working on transitioning to learning focused lesson planning. This is going to take us a couple of years. We're starting with essential questions. What is the most important question that this lesson answers? What can students do? I can statements. And the next thing we're going to be working on is graphic organizers. And some of these things are things we've used before, but we're learning about them and implementing in the most effective way through learning focused training. All right, in terms of STEM, we had a girls' Lego Adventure Club, and it really emphasized the 4 C's: collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. And they were able to showcase they were solving problems about water in Hickory. I think it was 2 weeks ago on Friday. It was really a chance for science and girls to get together with the 4 C's, and it was really, really a neat experience. And we have a boys' book club with Mr. Smith. They read a book, and then they do fun experiments like volcanoes in the cafeteria. So that's been a very popular activity. And the last thing, one of the last things I'd like to leave you with is we have a lot to celebrate at Wittenberg, and this is just sort of a partial list. Our WOW Awards, Veterans Day, Fall Festival, Halloween Parade, Honor Roll Breakfast, Holiday Program, Christmas Tree and Cookies, Giving Thanks for Good Books. We're going to start a talent show. We don't know how that's going to go, but I've heard they go well. We'll see how that all turns out. Field Day, Awards Day, and Grandparents' Breakfast. And we have some pictures to go with this. Making Christmas cookies. I had some horrible disease before Christmas, and I was unable to participate. If any of you had seen me, you would not have wanted me to participate, so I took pictures. And but we get kind of Martha Stewart, and we put the dough together, and the kids roll it out and decorate it. We do it with every child in the school, and it builds a lot of background knowledge for those kids, because I know growing up, I had these experiences in my home, but a lot of our students don't. And I've had so many kids who have come to me and say, Ms. Brown, this is my favorite thing we do over Christmas, and some of the parents do too, so it's really neat. And next year, hopefully, I will not be hanging out at urgent care, so we will try to do that again. We have our honor roll breakfast. Some of you may see pictures from earlier in the day. But that was today, so that was fun, and we don't have a lot of diversity at Wittenberg, but we're trying to showcase some diversity in these photos, just that we have all different kinds of kids, and they can all be successful at Wittenberg. We had a summer reading program, and our summer readers got to go in a limo ride. We got to eat at Village Inn Pizza, and it was the best day ever, and it was so much fun. So and we really talked that up a lot, so we think we're going to have even more summer readers next year. One of our most special days this year has been Veterans Day. We have veterans come in, and we put pictures up, and all the grade levels do something to honor the veterans, and we have an assembly in the gym, and I think Dr. Curry was there. And it's just really an honor for us to be able to honor our veterans, and I think we all got a tear in our eye because we had a video, but it's really a neat moment for all of our kids, and we're going to keep doing that. So that's something else that we've started celebrating the last couple of years. We had Grandparents' Breakfast. That's been fun. A neat thing we did this summer was the almost total eclipse of the sun, where we had a lot, we offered it to anybody who wanted to come. We had different activities. We had the glasses. That's our PE teacher and his daughter in that middle photo. We were able to learn about the total eclipse of the sun and participate in some fun activities without directly blinding ourselves staring at it. So that was a neat day that we invited the entire community could come. And then we had Water Day for everybody that tried hard last year, which was pretty much everybody. And then we had the Teacher of the Year for Alexander County Schools, Mr. Brian Smith. We're very excited that he was our Teacher of the Year, and he does a terrific job. But we still have some areas to work on. Bus behavior, parent engagement, implementing learning-focused lesson planning. We're working on it, but we know there's going to be little hills out there, but it's going to be a great thing. And then increasing mental health understanding in the regular ed classroom. And today was the 100th day of school, so happy 100th days. And our kinders dress up like they're 100 years old. And one of the teachers asked that they bring in 100 cans of 100 cans of food for our backpack program. And they were able to do that, so the kids spelled out 100 days. And we have one neat dad. One of the classrooms didn't have enough, so he went out to the grocery store, and he went to Walmart and came back with like 100 cans of food. And it's just a really neat part of being in that community that our parents are willing to do that. And we couldn't leave without more 100 days. And that's one of our teachers up there. And then that little girl's shirt says, "My teacher survived 100 days with me." So, and she is something else.
That's cute.
So, and one thing we always say when we sign off is 1, 2, 3. It's great to be a Wittenberg Wildcat. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. You're welcome. Okay, next up is, on the agenda is Dr. Bill Griffin for our school safety plan.
Chairman Bowman, members of the board, Dr. Hefner, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you this evening about school safety. As part of General Statute 115C-10527, we are to include a school safety plan into our school improvement planning process. And we are beginning the phases of that, and each of our schools have put together different components of their safety plan and have created a file folder that Dr. Hefner has access to, and Dr. Curry and myself, that we will share with you later on in closed session. For the school's safety and benefits of our students and staff, we do not present those in open session, but you will have access to all those documents to review during a closed session this evening. As part of that process, Dr. Hefner has in her holdings a document from each of the school's principals that states the following. Attached are school safety components to be incorporated in said school's 2017 through 2019 school improvement plan pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 115C-10527. That she makes the following written recommendations for your consideration. Attached in that file, you will find safety components of the following: Alexander County Schools Incident Management Plan, Alexander County Schools Crisis Management Plan, School Risk Management Plan, Alexander Schools Reunification Plan, and a code down, code in process and procedures as they are to follow as we do those drills each and every year. All relevant and appropriate stakeholders have had an opportunity to contribute to the components. Each school administrator has asked that they present those components to their school improvement team, make any suggestions, outline any feedback within those components, and make sure that they're certainly aware of how to follow those procedures that we have in front of them. The components contain security elements listed in Chapter 115C of the North Carolina General Statutes and security recommendations made by the local law enforcement agencies. And finally, number 4 is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve those components. So as you review those this evening, look over them. If you have any feedback or any changes that we need to make to those components, then we'll do so. And then we'll bring this document back next board meeting for a vote that all is to be approved, if that's okay with you. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Ms. Macy Jones to share information on the federal audit.
Good evening, Chairman Bowman, Dr. Hefner, and members of the board. 1 week from today, 2 weeks from today, we will begin our federal audit. We expect a team of 4 to arrive on Tuesday, February the 27th, and they will be here until the afternoon of Thursday. It goes to the first week of March. Again, this team is made up of 4 people. Each has a focus area to review. Here are some of the things that they will review. Someone will review children's files, while another person visits our classrooms and evaluates the interactions between the staff and between the children, and that's known as a class assessment scoring system. And then we will have another person that will talk to board members on the 28th. Her name is Colleen. She is the review team lead, and she will be here in the boardroom available from 9 until 9:30. She said she just needs to talk to someone for 30 minutes. When she is talking to you, some of the things that she will ask you about is, do you see the annual report? Do you receive child outcomes information? Do you receive program information reports? And I did those back in October. Those are some of the things that she will ask you. Whenever I gave you your board training packet, I did include that information in that packet. One of the questions that she will ask is, have you been trained on the responsibilities of the board? And that would be a great time to pull out that packet and that disc and to say yes, that we have our training modules on the disc that I gave you in the packet. We expect everything to go well. Remember, we did have an unannounced review back in 2013. The team just showed up from the federal government. That was the same day that we were opening a brand new classroom at Piedmont School. So I was there at that time. I think it was Dr. Hefner's first or second day on the job as well. But we did well.
And it was also right after a holiday,
Yes.
as well as I remember. So it was an
Yes.
interesting time.
After the Thanksgiving holiday.
Mhm.
So, yes, December 1st, I believe. But we did well. We had 2 findings, and we corrected those findings. So, in your electronic data, I provided for you what they call Focus Area 2. And those are the things that they will be looking for, the things that are in Focus Area 2, monitoring protocol. The pages that you may want to become familiar with are pages 3 and 4. Pages 3 and 4. I did send the electronic copy to you, but I have hard copies of that document as well, if you would like to take a copy. And I'll pass those down. So I'm just here tonight to make you aware of those dates, and to, I think some of you have already said that you would be available.
I think we've had 3 confirmations so
Yes.
far.
Yes. Do you have any questions for me? Okay, I'll see you in March with the results. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Macy, for all your hard work.
You're welcome. We
I-
have a good team.
I am on the Policy Council for Head Start, and that is a hard-working group of people, and Macy is an excellent leader.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Award of Honor, and I'll turn this over to Dr. Hefner.
I'm going to read the Award of Honor guidelines to you. This is also an attachment in your agenda. The Alexander County Board of Education has established the Award of Honor in order to recognize those individuals who have made exceptional contributions to Alexander County schools. This award represents the highest honor that the Board of Education can bestow. Criteria for the selection of this award shall be based on exceptional contributions to the Alexander County school system or any of its individual schools in the areas of academics, athletics, administration, student achievement, or community service to the schools. The contributions may include recognition on a regional, statewide, or national level, as well as local notoriety, and shall have allowed our children the chance not only to grow and meet their full potential, but to excel as well. The final yardstick by which all nominees shall be judged as to the merit of his or her application is the positive effect on the quality of education in Alexander County, as recognized by fellow students, teachers, administrators, and the community in general. The guidelines. A committee shall be established to receive and screen recommendations for this award. Neither current Board of Education members nor current school system employees are eligible for the award. The final decision shall be made by the Alexander County Board of Education. This is most important right now. Nominations may be made from the second week in February through the second week in March of each year. Nominations will be kept on file for up to 3 years. Each individual nominated must have a minimum of 3 letters of recommendation by non-immediate family members. The award shall be given annually at the time determined by the Board of Education, and nomination forms are available at the Alexander County Board of Education office. So the bottom line, the window for nominations, it has opened, and they will be accepted through the second week in March.
Okay. Dr. Effner, I will ask you to continue with your monthly report.
Great. Well, that's a perfect lead-in to my first bullet. That is also attached to your agenda. A date has been finalized for the Award of Honor celebration for Mr. Jack Hoke. This event has been scheduled for March 4th, beginning at 3 at the auditorium. Formal invitations have been mailed, but please remember this event is open to the general public. I hope each of you will make plans to attend this special event on Sunday, March 4th. My second bullet tonight, we have scheduled a school visit to ACHS. That is scheduled for Monday, February 26th. We're going to meet in the school's office at 11:30. I know that several of you asked to visit the Freshman Academy after we have lunch that day, and if you want to see other classes or programs while we are at the high school, please let me know about that as soon as possible. Mr. Lewis, will you make sure that you confirm with Mr. Roney that we will arrive at 11:30? It was questionable whether it would be 11 or 11:30, but tell him 11:30. Okay, thank you. My third bullet, I wanted to provide a reminder about the upcoming, as Macy just said, the Head Start review that is scheduled for February 27th through March 1st. Board members have been invited to meet with that review team on Wednesday, February 28th from 9 to 9:30 here in the boardroom. And this is a very important event for our Head Start program. Macy Jones and her team, they are working very hard to make sure that we are prepared for the visit, and I'm just proud of the program that we provide our preschool children. My fourth bullet, across North Carolina, regional workforce development boards are teaming up with industry and educational partners to develop career pathways that will be certified by the NC Works Commission. The Western Piedmont Workforce Development Board serves 4 counties: Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, and Catawba. Representatives from education, including school systems, community colleges, and universities, and local industries have worked together to develop career pathways. These pathways provide on and off ramps for workers in all stages of their careers, with the ultimate goal of connecting talented job seekers to employers. On November 17, 2017, the Western Piedmont Workforce Development Board received official certification for its Advanced Manufacturing Career Pathway, and I received the certificate to prove that, issued in November of 17, and it's going to remain effective until November 15th of 2020. Work is already well underway for a certified career pathway in healthcare. The application for certification will be submitted by the team working on that application in March. Attached to the agenda, you have a soil and water banquet invitation, and that event starts at 6:30 on Thursday, May 17th at Taylorsville First Baptist Church in Davis Hall. May 17th sounds like a long time away, but it's really not, considering this is the middle of February already. Those of you who would like to go, we need to RSVP by May 4th. So if you would let either Deborah or me know if you want to go to that event, we will RSVP for the group. The sixth bullet, this was big time news last Thursday. A K-3 class size fix bill known as House Bill 90 was released last Thursday. The bill includes an extended 4-year phase-in process and full funding of enhancement teachers to address statewide concerns from public school leaders about the existing class size requirements for grades kindergarten through 3rd. I have attached a press release from the North Carolina Association of School Administrators that provides much more details about House Bill 90, but please hear that this is a 4-year phase-in process. So it would be at the 4th year before all of those enhancement teachers are fully funded at a 1 to 191 student ratio. So if you don't mind at some point within the next week reading that, you certainly will understand much more about that House bill. As Mrs. Brown mentioned, today was the 100th day of the school year, and it was celebrated throughout the district. I was treated to a variety of wonderful pictures, and something must be on Pinterest or something, because the child that had that cute t-shirt that said, "My teacher survived 100 days of me," that was not just at Wittenberg. I saw it at other schools, but that was probably my favorite t-shirt. I had never seen that before. But also the students dressing up like they were 100 years old. I saw more little girls with their hair in buns, and they had put flour or something gray in it to look old, and had their little readers on the ends of their nose. It was really a cute activity today. But probably the most touching activity that I heard about involved the staff at Piedmont. And they treated their parents this morning in the car line with Krispy Kreme donuts, thanking the parents for their support during the first 100 days of the school year. So this year, you know, it gets more creative every year, but I just really enjoyed receiving that information today. And then the last thing that I would mention, I have a middle school Battle of the Books invitation for each of you. Compliments of Teresa Smeeks. This event is scheduled for March 15th. Oh, excuse me, the middle school, is next week. That's Wednesday the 21st. And then the elementary Battle of the Books is scheduled for March 15th. So that will be for both of those events, but you are officially invited. And I hope that you'll be able to join us at least at one of those events. Do you have any questions?
Nope. We don't.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, bullet number 4, due to the absence of Ms. Mahaffey, we are not going to consider any of the third readings of the proposed policy revisions until March, at our March meeting. Next on the agenda is the proposed lease agreement with Sugarloaf Fire Department, and Mr. Shrum is facilities over that, but Mr. Shrum is sick this week, and I told him I would present this and get y'all's approval on it. The Facilities Committee has recommended that we extend a 6-month extension to Sugarloaf Fire Department at the rate of $500 per month, a $100 increase. Felt like that was very fair, and hopefully we can get that finished as soon as possible. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve the recommendation.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the lease agreement, please say yes.
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 Any noes? And that carries. Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Next item up under new business is our proposed policy revisions, and I'll call on Dr. Jennifer Hefner for the first reading.
Thank you, Chairman Bowman. Board members, this update contains 20 policies and 1 procedure, and each of these have technical changes only. Most of the technical changes are necessary to eliminate references to repealed statutes or to substitute new statutory sites due to recodification of the law. Other changes include updated hyperlinks, corrections to existing citations, the addition of new legal references, minor updates to terminology, and minor corrections to punctuation. Most of the changes appear in the legal reference sections of the policies. I say all that, and just what all that really means is nothing changed in the meat of these policies or procedures. They were very technical changes that involved. And I would ask Chairman Bowman that the board consider approving these policies on the first read, since they were just very minor technical changes.
Okay. Board, you've heard the recommendations. Do I have a motion to approve these on the first reading?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Okay. If you approve, will you please say yes?
Yes.
Any no's? Thank you so much. Those are passed. Okay, Bullet 3, I'll ask Ms. Macy Jones to come back forward for the Head Start written plans and procedures.
Mr. Chair, in your packet of information, you have quite a few of our Head Start written plans and procedures, and we are working under new performance standards that came out in 2017. And as a result of that, all of the managers had to revise our plans to align with the new plans and procedures. So you have those in your board packet, and included with that is the policy council bylaws. Just talks about the duties of each position, the chair, the vice chair, how often we will meet, and those types of things. So we just need approval if you're satisfied with those.
Okay. Board members, you've heard this motion. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the Head Start written plans and procedures as presented, please say yes.
Yes.
Any no's? And that carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Ms. Teresa Smeeks, to talk about the 2018-19 school calendar.
Chairman Bowman, Dr. Hefner, members of the board, I once again come to you with a new calendar. This one is for next year, 2018-19. And the policies and law were presented to the committee, and we always use this little piece of it that kind of breaks it down and lets us know the law that we have to follow by the numbers. The law has not changed. They did not change it this past year. The starts and end dates were the same. And Dr. Griffin, can you click on final so it'll come up? I did give you a paper copy beside, because if you're like me, I don't see well there, so I have one here.
Thank you.
And but it follows all of the laws. I did bring it before the committee. We had about 4 different drafts to begin with, narrowed down to about 2, and then made some changes to our favorite one. All the way through, everyone was adamant that they wanted school to end on June 7th. Why they didn't want to go to June 14th, I just can't imagine, but they wanted it to end on June 7th. And so that's the one we went with. It allowed us a few more days in between this year, so we don't have as many stretches of time without a break, although this year we've had breaks with snow. Hopefully we won't have that next year. But it allows, if we don't have any for some, the 10 elementary only days are in there, 5 on Thursdays, 5 on Fridays, and we try to spread them out evenly. And then we do have those days the longest stretch of time is September, October, but usually at that time of year, we're kind of just starting and it's not as hard. But we did put 2 of those during that time. And so, does anyone have any questions on anything that we did?
As far as the hours built in, do you know about how many days?
Yes, the same as we had this year, about 9. It was a little bit over 9. And, which we never thought we'd even get close to using that many. But we didn't kind of expect there to be tornadoes and all of these
Snow
things
in
like
early
we had this year.
December.
But we're still good. It's gonna be 70 degrees this weekend, so we're gonna make it. But yeah, I think the 9 is a good number of extra days to have in a normal year. But we still have just as many. Anything else? Chairman Bowen, I need an approval.
Okay. Board members, you've heard this motion for the 18-19 school calendar. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the 2018-19 school calendar, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Lee.
you.
And I will send you all out another copy with the draft removed, so that you have one.
Thank you so much. Next up is our teacher contracts. If Dr. Bill Griffin will come forward and discuss that.
Board Chairman Bowman, members of the board, Dr. Hefner, I come before you this evening to speak about our proposed teacher contract. If you would follow along with me on our presentation, you guys will remember Mr. Christopher Campbell came and spoke to us. It was on December 6th in the boardroom here. The majority of you were in attendance, and those that weren't, he was able to record a video of that lesson and that presentation for you to watch and review at your own pleasure. We had a lot of great discussion that evening, and I certainly appreciate you guys bringing him in and giving his expertise about this matter and what that meant for our school system. I think it was very valuable to not only us and you guys as members of the board, but to our teachers as well. During that night's presentation, one of the first slides he used was this slide that I have before you that basically showed you the difference that we're beginning to see or going to see July 1st, 2018 and beyond with teacher contracts. Currently, you can see on the left-hand side as through July 1st, 18 and then beyond. So starting this next school year, those teachers that are career status, that currently have career status within our system will maintain their career status, but all others will fall under contractual employment within our school system. And it was our job to figure out exactly what we needed to do and what our school system would like to see within those contracts. And we had some leniency, we had some choices to make and look at, and it kind of put it back on our shoulders as to what's best for our particular school system. We had to make a choice. Do we want 1-year contracts for those teachers? Do we want 2-year contracts for those teachers, 4-year contracts for those teachers, or a culmination of all of 3? And to do that, on December 19th, we had a district meeting, and we brought together 16 of our different leaders from across the district. We had representation from each of our schools. We had teacher leaders present. We also had administrators present. And we had about an hour-and-a-half long meeting to discuss teacher contracts. During that meeting, we reviewed the Chris Campbell video, and as you guys were able to see his expertise and advice in moving forward with this situation. And then we had a long discussion, not only through the video, but after the video, about what we felt was best for Alexander County Schools in moving forward with teacher contracts. By the end of that meeting and going over the different examples that he gave us, the different examples that the North Carolina School Board Association gave us, those teachers all felt the consensus at that point was to go a 1-year contract, a 1-year contract, a 1-year contract, again, 3 1s. At the end of that, to give the ability of those teachers to have a 2-year contract and then followed by a 4-year contract if they met the criterion that we will recommend before you in just a second. A lot of that conversation was based upon the fact that they would like to see a 4-year contract. However, they felt that teachers should earn that 4-year contract before just walking straight into that. And listening to our partners from different regions, some are going straight with a 1-year contract every year. Others are simply given a 2-year. Some are going straight to a 4. Our teacher leaders felt it was best to kind of put all of those together and kind of a stair-stepping process to earn that 4-year contract. So on December 10th, we had a follow-up meeting. I wrote some of that language down that they asked for. I put together a document, and on December 10th, we had a follow-up meeting, and all of our participants of that meeting agreed, except for some small changes to the language in that document. And the document that we have now that I present before you is our actual proposal. And that document reads, I would like to switch at this point to go back to my seat. I'm kind of a one-man show, but I want to change the presentation if I could. This is the document before you, and I'll read it to you and then answer any questions that you may have, and then give you certainly time to review that and go over it. That Alexander County Schools proposed teacher contract states a new or renewed contract will be for a term of 1 school year for teachers who have been employed by the board as a teacher for less than 3 consecutive years, immediately preceding a further contract offer. For teachers who have been employed by the board as a teacher for 3 or more consecutive years, immediately preceding a further contract offer, and who are in good standing, a new or renewed contract will be for a term of 2 school years. After a teacher has completed a 2-year contract, subsequent contracts will be for a term of 4 school years if the teacher is in good standing at the time of the contract offer. If renewed, a teacher who is not in good standing shall be offered a contract for a term of only 1 school year. A teacher will be considered in good standing for purposes of this policy if all of the following criteria are met. The teacher received a rating of at least proficient on all standards of the teacher evaluation instrument on the 2 most recent annual evaluations. The teacher is not currently on a monitored or directed growth plan, mandatory improvement plan, or corrective action plan, and has not been on any such plan at any time during the current or previous school year. Number 3, the teacher has not received any of the following: a demotion, a suspension without pay, a written reprimand, or other documented disciplinary action that exists in their official personnel file located in the Alexander County Schools Human Resources Department during the current or previous school year. And 4, there is no other relevant performance or conduct information in the personnel file located in the Alexander County Schools Human Resources Department that would support a decision to disqualify the teacher from a multi-year contract. So as we stair-step through that, we go through making sure they're here for 3 consecutive years of 1-year contract. And then at that point, they can have the 2-year contract if they meet all of those criteria. And if they meet all those criteria at the end of the 2, upon renewal at that point, they're eligible for a 4-year contract if they meet all of those criteria. Any questions?
I think, if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
during the earlier slide, you said that during the first meeting of the district, there was a consensus about how much of a majority was this particular plan?
During a lot of our conversation, I'm glad you brought that up, there was a lot of conversation about different school leaders within the district and the proficient rating. Some districts were looking at only being renewed if you were all accomplished within the evaluation standards. A lot of conversation came up with our teacher leaders and what we've been trained of what actually is proficient. A lot of conversation came up as to different leaders on how they evaluated different schools. So there was a lot of question in regard to that, and the final consensus at that point, and the reason we chose proficient was because we've been trained as school administrators that if you are proficient in what you do, you're doing what you are asked to do, and you're meeting the standards in which we set before you. That accomplished is going beyond that, and that distinguished is the best around. So the teachers felt that if they were proficient in what they were supposed to be doing, and the administrators were honest in their evaluations, then they were doing an adequate job within their school setting. So a lot of conversation went back and forth on that piece. There was a lot of conversation about how many years that we would have going. And I presented them with the different options that the School Board Association showed us, as well as Mr. Campbell. And again, they felt that not staying at a 1 year, I think there was a conversation, or there was a comment made that, hey, I'm fine with 1 year because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and I don't worry about a contract. That was true. However, there was also opinion that it would be nice, and we felt like that it would be something that teachers could work forward to and look forward to, a 4-year contract. So we did have a lot of dialogue, and it was a very meaningful meeting, I thought, with some of our most prized teachers and administrators around the district, having a good conversation about that. So the consensus at the end of that, yes ma'am, was pretty much, and it was pretty much unanimous once we wrote in that little language about that as the document that we have here.
Okay.
I have a question, hypothetical question. If you had a second-year teacher or grade level and they don't meet growth expectations, would they be deemed deficient?
Okay. And we can get into a lot of different scenarios there. If they aren't proficient, second-year teacher, they're under contract, they'd be on a 1-year contract at that particular time. That principal has a decision whether to renew or not to renew, or keep that teacher on another 1-year contract to make sure that they're growing that teacher in the right direction at that point.
Board Member Odom, are you specifically asking about the test results though? Is that
When you say
your
growth,
question? You
yes.
understand that they're under a 1-year contract at that point?
Yes.
But you were asking how that all shakes out with their test scores.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as teacher growth models go, if they were ranked proficient in what they do, then again, they would be with any decision within that, at the end of a contract, that principal has a decision to renew or not to renew. So that would be a part of their decision, would be student growth or test scores, but it wouldn't be a culminating factor in everything they're evaluated.
And I will say that the evaluation instrument has changed a bit. That used to be a standard in and of itself, and it's not anymore. It's been rolled back into, I think, standard number 4 would be their test scores.
And we also asked that we put in process here within our LEA that any teacher that doesn't meet growth, and they go on a full monitored plan, or a full observational plan, excuse me. So that would be a process to make sure that we're doing and giving that teacher all the resources that we possibly can to grow them and get them better at what they do.
I have a question. 16 school leaders. Did you have a breakdown on that of how many teachers were involved in that?
I can tell you. There was 11 teacher leaders within.
Were those the teachers of the year?
Not exactly. What I did
okay.
was the principal. Some of them were, yes ma'am, but the email, the correspondence I sent to our principals was, please send me a representative that would represent your school well as a leader, and one that would voice what is needed for your school. And a lot of those were teachers of the year. The principal also had the leniency to have someone else come, or teacher of the year for that particular school may not have been able to been available that day, so the principal sent another.
I just have some additional comments, and it's certainly not directed at Bill by any means. But, you know, the thing that concerns me is if you're a municipal employee, you're an at-will employee if you work for a town. And, you know, teachers and educators, they used to get longevity and tenure, all those caveats that made the job attractive are gone. And I question a lot of the motives of the North Carolina General Assembly. But why don't we put tax collectors on one-year contracts? And, you know, if they go below the state average, are they deficient or not proficient? You know, I don't want our educators continually looking over their backs. And we all understand that some folks really excel, some don't. You know, I feel that, you know, when they strip these things away from the educators, you know, our educators today in 2018, they deal with far more complexities, social complexities, than they had to 20, 30 years ago. And I was reflecting back, they talk about the opioid crisis, and finally the federal government and state government, they've identified a problem that is prevalent here. Well, you know, those folks have children, and those children will be in our school system. And the federal government and the state government will make us provide a basic public education. Well, the facts are that North Carolina, we rank 40th out of 50 states in funding. And I dare say that the recruitment market in South Carolina and Virginia, you know, how do they pay their teachers? What caveats do they offer them in the benefit package? I think, and this is only my opinion, I'm afraid in a decade from now, we're going to have an extreme shortfall of educators in North Carolina due to the fact that not local school boards, but the General Assembly is clearly out of touch in many ways with what it takes to educate a child. And that child could be a Willie M. child, a child of addiction. The gamut just runs the course. And I just, you know, if you're going to put additional rigor on public educators, we'll do the same for tax collectors, town managers. You know, if you're going to be doling out discipline, then be equitable. But I just have a real aversion to our public educators who only get paid 10-month employees for a little over 200 days a year, roughly. And it's burdensome to me. And you know, you said that the group, you had 11 school teachers on this committee, and what you're doing is structurally correct by the statute. But what else would a teacher say? Because really they don't have a choice. It's either 1, 2, 3, or 4-year contracts. And used to, if you did your job, it wasn't so much about testing, it was more about learning. And you know, I dare say if we don't change the way we do things in North Carolina, you know, instead of being 40th out of 50 states in public education funding, we may be that low in teacher recruitment. So, you know, our hands are tied as a board. I appreciate the due diligence, but, you know, I don't appreciate the extra baggage that they place on public educators. My vision is kind of skewed because I grew up in a family with public educators. And, but, you know, the parents, as long as Johnny and Jenny are getting what they need, you know, when they move on to that next grade or move out of school, then the focus is not so much on public education because Johnny and Jenny did their 13 years. But, you know, folks need to pay attention. It's troublesome. I'm glad we don't put police officers on 1-year contracts. you know, because they face things and obstacles unseen. Well, I can promise you that teachers do the exact same thing. So, thank you.
Board Member Odom, we certainly are very appreciative of our teachers and what they do on a daily basis, as well as all of our staff members. But adhering to general statutes and what we have to put forth, our document that we drafted here, I think, gives them, I guess, maybe the best of all worlds, if possible.
Best of the world are being offered at this time.
Well, there you go. Absolutely.
That's right.
I am glad that we have decided to offer 4-year contracts, period. Back in the olden days, which I come from the olden days, we had 3 years that we were probationary teachers, and after that we were granted tenure. And then there was a list of things that we could be fired for, but we didn't worry about our jobs as long as we were doing them. And I want our teachers to have just as long a contract as we can give to them. Because I would have hated to have taught, and I did my job. Don't get me wrong, I did my job. But it alleviates one worry from that teacher's life of, am I going to get a contract next year? You know, they only have to worry about it every 4 years then.
Well, I would hope that in Alexander County that teachers aren't fearful of getting a contract if they're doing their job. I wouldn't.
And in meeting these criteria, honestly,
Exactly.
if you look at the criterion that we're using, they're very lenient compared to other districts. We have neighboring districts that are recommended to their boards that have accomplished, nothing below accomplished. Other criterion that I have seen is making sure that they meet such and such growth standards and different models. So we, and with our leadership team, felt confident that if we are being evaluated like we say we are, then we are doing our job at proficient, although we know many of them are accomplished and distinguished within our schools, and certainly aren't worried about these standards here, but it does give that option that if they're not, then there's conversation to be had and moving forward. So. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, board members, we need to take action on this. If there's a motion on the table to approve the teacher contracts as presented, do I have that motion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the teacher contracts as presented, please say yes.
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 Any noes?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you. That's 3-2. Okay, it will pass 3-2. 4.
How would you?
Yeah, I was yes. I'm sorry. So Harry's on one out. 4-2, I'm sorry. It passes 4-2. Okay. Now it's time for a closed session. The board will now enter into closed session pursuant North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11.
Move, so moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Okay. Thank everyone for coming tonight.